work is really for nonprofits, it's for profits, it's for individuals who are activists and entrepreneurs, all of whom who are looking to focus on social justice and equity in our world, which we know is needed, and to do good and do well.
Yeah.
But, you know, in terms of why did I start this company, I also needed to create a place that was human-centered. I'm from New York, and hustle is in our blood.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting because it can grind you to dust. It really can, especially when you're chasing things that at the end, if you haven't really thought about what success means for you, it can be really hard because you're constantly kind of going after to the wheel of opportunities, or you're responding to things, or you're not grounded in yourself and what it is that you really want to accomplish in the world. And so, and we tend to forget about the human space, right? And I think we see that a lot right now, this year in particular. I wanted to build a company that was not based on the grind and the hustle, but on alignment.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, you know, attracting clients that were focused on doing well and doing good, attracting consultants and independent practitioners that were focused on had the same value system, that cared about the world, but, you know, first cared about people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really like the first component of it. I also realized that when I was an independent consultant, I've been a disruptor, meaning you're outside of institutions most of my career. So I've been a consultant primarily. And what's interesting about that is that you also have opportunities to kind of build new things that don't exist. And what I realized when I was doing that, a majority of the people who were working for me, with me, were single moms. Mm-hmm. And single moms needed not to work 9 to 5. That's why we have that rule. Please do not emails at 4 in the morning, even though that's when you're working. Hey, Donnie.
Yeah.
You know, even though that's when you're working, you can work whenever you want. I mean, their kids would come over to my house, and that was perfectly fine. But I knew that when you walk into an office, sometimes you're just like, it's really about the time clock as opposed to your value.
Yeah.
In addition to that, what I know for sure, and I think we all know this, that sometimes, you know, when you're a person who represents a particular identity in our country that has been disenfranchised in some way, as we call it vulnerable communities. Most of our clients are women of color, led organizations. All of our clients are focused either living the experience or dedicated to over 20 years or more to focusing on equity and justice. And so, you know, all of that work also comes, hi, Brian, with lots of bias too, because you're deconstructing spaces that have been indoctrinated, right? Mm-hmm. With inequity. That's what our country's been built on. So we're coaching constantly. We're creating sacred space to allow for folks to be vulnerable and be able to dream.
Yeah.
I also knew for sure, because I've been a consultant for so long, that most of our clients who are working in this space were under-resourced. There was a huge stratification for business services. So you can only afford to really pay for a consultant to come in and help you based on the network that you had, not on a broader network. If you wanted a broader network, you have to bring in a recruiter, and then that's going to cost you money, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're only getting, you'd think your problem is really about revenue diversification. You need to raise more money, but you haven't thought about the change management and the culture, or that your constituents or your customers have shifted, and what is your unique value proposition? Like all of these pieces that are part of it, right? But you start to compound that, it's a lot of money. So that was the whole idea. How do you create one space where everyone is, that we all care about the same things, and we care about each other?
Yeah.
So that's what started the journey.
Okay, well, it's so cool because I want to ask you something about kind of what we call humanizing the hustle.
Yeah.
That you've talked about so eloquently. I think particularly for me, as someone who, you know, has a career kind of grounded in fundraising and development space, a lot of time that space is transactional, which points to what you were saying about the fact people think, oh, I just have to raise more money, but there's all these elements to it. And so I know what humanizing the hustle has meant for me, and sort of being able to be grounded in a space of talking about philanthropy and storytelling and leadership, about all these pieces from a very human perspective. I'm curious as to whether or not you have seen the humanizing the hustle in other spaces, which like kind of helped you sort of say, I really want to be committed to that? Or do you feel like that's kind of where we're headed, particularly in this philanthropy kind of sector?
I think that it is, and I want to hear what it means for you. I also
Okay.
want to hear your perspective of being here because I'm so, let's build the company. You've been
Yeah.
here the whole time.
Yeah.
Humanizing the hustle, I think sometimes it undervalues you,
Yeah.
as a person. If
Hmm.
you're not humanizing it, if you're not
Yeah.
thinking about people, if you're only focused on how many hours did you work, did you get it done, if you're forgetting that someone's dealing with a parent who, is ill, or maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe they're just having a really bad day, or by the way, we're also dealing with a global health crisis.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right.
like we're moving slow and moving fast. I think it's just about thinking about people, and I
Yeah.
know that we have a certain structure, and when you work within institutions that are structured in that way, it's really difficult to unpack it because you have to really, unless you're at the very top, but even then you have to change the entire
Yeah.
culture. So if you're building
Hmm.
it from the ground up, you have an opportunity to build the culture you want. That means that all
Hmm.
the people who come are part of that culture. It's very collective. It's in a way, we have a lot of African rooted themes and values in our company.
Hmm.
Right. So I'm a Black woman, so I'm going to bring some of that there in terms of the
Yeah.
collectivity that's needed. It's
Yeah.
not about one person. It's not even about me. It's about everybody, which is why a lot of people don't see me on a lot. I've done a lot in my career, but I didn't want to create a company where I had practices where I would hire people to work with me, and people
Hmm.
were hiring me. They're not hiring me at PS314. They're hiring the best team to help them elevate and leverage the opportunity of the moment so that they can be empowered.
Yeah.
Right. And that's for everybody. That's for our consultants too.
Hmm.
Humanizing the hustle means that where are your blind spots? What do you need in support? Do you need us to market you better? Do you need help with the financials? It really just depends specifically. What do our clients need? It's literally the same ecosystem. Our clients are not, it's not a hierarchical space where the clients are here and the consultants are here. We're all working together and we have space to just be human.
Yeah.
As soon as the racial uprisings began, I needed to take a B. So that letter didn't come for about a month
Yeah.
until after. And I
Yeah.
was a little bit concerned that we had not made any progress,
Hmm.
because specifically because of the hashtag I can't breathe. And I was like, we were just here. So what was missing from that part? Who wasn't paying attention?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of judgment around it because I had a lot of pain. I'm living the experience as being a Black woman in this country, and I have a lot of concern. And there's
Hmm.
also a lot of coping that we've done and concessions we've made along the way. So I think that part of our work as the Black community is healing. So we're starting this program on fireside chats this summer that's
Hmm.
focused around identity. And
Yeah.
so that's really about inviting individuals to speak through their identities to have a better understanding.
Hmm.
And we're going to focus on what does it mean to be a Black trans woman now, knowing that your life expectancy is 35. There's not enough information that all of us are paying attention to. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, we need to broaden the conversation around Black Lives Matter to make it more inclusive across the board. There's no reason why it should be separate.
Yeah.
And so what does that really mean? So we're excited about that conversation, which will be next Thursday.
Hmm.
We're going to talk a little bit about generational leadership, especially because some of us are seeming to follow the playbook of the civil rights movement, and that doesn't work anymore. So we're going to talk to some folks from the civil rights movement. We'll talk to some folks who are of our generation, of Generation X, and then we're going to talk to some folks who are of a new generation, really better understand what does this actually mean
Hmm.
in this moment. What can we learn from the past? What can we offer for the future? What are we learning today?
Hmm.
There's another conversation that I'm really interested in, the disconnect between Black and white women for gender solidarity. There's a
Yeah.
huge bridge that has to be built, and I think a lot of it has to do with just a lack of awareness of each other, and
Yeah.
it's tension fraught for sure.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
going to have a good old conversation about that one.
Hmm.
And then the last one is about exceptionalism, and that conversation is going to be between America and South Africa, because I continue to see that as being like our future, our past, and our present. There's so many
Yeah.
similarities there. But exceptionalism, meaning that when there is progress, who's allowed to come through the door and who
Hmm.
isn't,
Hmm.
right? Because
Hmm.
there's the other piece of this as we start to dismantle racism is understanding that a lot of it is a power structure
Yeah.
that is wanting to stay in place, which means that sometimes we feel and have been able to opt out of the crisis because of our socioeconomic or because we've been chosen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we need to examine that a little bit because we have an opportunity to. So those are the core areas that we plan to just kind of like navigate in conversation this summer and then share it with our community in the fall.